Hello and welcome back to Mellohi, a DSMP podcast. This is episode 4 and today we'll be talking about Quackity's latest lore stream, Eret's Crown, and improvised lore. As always, we'll mostly be referring to the characters by name and specifying when we're talking about the writers, and we're also more interested in analysing the characters, meaning we might get a bit critical of your favourite, so don't take it personally. Anyway, let's get started. Okay, well, our last episode came out after quite a bit of lore happened, so probably best to talk about that lore in this episode.
There, so much has happened in the last. I guess it wasn't a week. Last week and a half. Technically,
it was
2 weeks.
I know, it's great.
We got a week of Luxembourg stuff, and then we just have condensed 3 days of just pure Quackity lore.
Yeah, it was a lot of Quackity, but it was also
plus the introduction of a new character.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Michael McChill, my beloved.
Well, no, 2 new characters actually, because I was counting Charlie Slimesicle as a new character.
Oh
since
yeah.
he was never role playing when he was originally on the server.
Didn't he only showed up once, and then never again?
Yeah, he showed up and he got shot into space. But now he's back and he is a centuries-old slime who took the form of a human and is now getting used to having things like bones and organs. So he cannot jump off towers and expect to survive.
the 2 new characters are both very interesting choices. We've got Michael McChill, the first canonical Sea Dream apologist, which my beloved, and
The exclamation mark.
The exclamation
Dream apologist.
we have a seemingly immortal. I don't know if he's immortal or not. It kind of seems like it's hinting towards that, but a seemingly immortal slime that is turned
I think
himself
he's
into
sort of
human.
got an in-between space where technically he can't die, but if he does, it will take him a long time to sort of reform. So if he dies, he's not gone forever, but he's sort of out of commission for a while. Although I'm not sure how long that would be.
Right.
Because they could also add in things like people being able to find his bits and stick them back together or something. I don't know.
Yeah, he implied that if he fell like that, or if he died, he just break into a whole bunch of little bits like how normal slimes do, because he was surprised when he learned Quackity couldn't do the same.
Yeah, so he would. Yeah, it sounded like he basically meant that if you kill him, he'll act like a slime and break into other bits, and then it'll take him another century or 2 to come back together and form a human.
And it's just it's really cool because he's the first explicitly non-human character. Obviously you've got characters like Ronbu who are clearly shown to be non-human.
Yeah.
But it's not a sort of an important part of their character as it is with Charlie's character.
Right. Because you can say you're part nature druid or part Enderman, but despite all those non-human traits, there's still very much human characters who grew up in a human society and have basic human, what's it called?
Instinct.
Behavior, knowledge, pretense.
Or an understanding of how human society works.
Yeah.
And Slimesicle's character just
Very much
doesn't have that, which makes them really, really fun. And also gives him so much potential, especially since he's working with Quackity, who at the moment is definitely on the more morally questionable side of the whole scale of grey morality that all the characters are on. So if that's who he's learning human morals from, he has a chance to do some really bad stuff, but also everyone's still gonna be an apologist for him because he literally would not know better. But he could just honestly, he could murder. He could outright just murder someone, and I would still be an apologist for him.
Yeah. Quackity's relationship with him is super interesting because, on one side, he is trying to manipulate the kid, but on the other side, it's not exactly working the way he thought it would, and you can see him sort of scrambling, trying to fix things and adjust his plans and stuff. And then Charlie's just completely oblivious.
Yeah, he has no idea, which is actually really sad because I've seen like tweets about how I don't watch it, but the D&D podcast that Charlie does, apparently he has a habit of making these characters that are like these really they're like Ghostbur type characters where they're like these really sweet innocent souls and like you're really cute and adorable, and then he just drops absolute trauma on you. And you can already tell it's coming because within like 5 seconds of having met Quackity, he gets knocked out, thrown in a hole, and then manipulated into thinking that everything Quackity does is fine. And it's just like, this is not gonna end well. I'm just waiting for like...
Like, honestly, like, I am one of those people that's reaction, like, during XLR, because I watched it live. It's just like, this is so fun. Dream's characters being so evil. I love it. And then I would just, like, I would watch purely for the bits where he would show up to go and be evil. Because, like, that's my thing with villain characters, okay? And it's probably the reason why so many of my favorite characters are villain characters, is that when they're being evil, it's just fun to watch. And when they're not, they're usually being sad, which makes me sad, which makes me like the character. Like, I do not hate characters very often unless they're annoying or they're like very specific kinds of evil.
Yeah.
And even then, if you give me like 1 inch of like sympathetic, and you're like, Sam at the moment is very much the kind of character that I would usually dislike because they're that's the kind of evil that I usually don't like, but also there's enough of his character is sympathetic that I'm just like, yeah, I like him anyway. I just can't hate this guy. He's an absolute coward. He's trying his best. He might be torturing someone by proxy, but I don't care.
Yeah, no, that's completely understandable. And I think Quackity might actually be getting attached to Charlie. Just with the way he's been, like, treating him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's, like, starting to care about him, even as he's, like, trying to manipulate him.
Yeah.
Quackity's very good at that, though, because I think he has a similar thing with Fundy, where he, like...
He's gonna have, like, an, oh, fuck, I just got attached moment at some point.
Yes, please.
Which I can relate to, because I had that with Dream's character at the end of the disc finale. I was just like, God damn it, why do I always get attached to the villain characters?
See, I think that's one of the difference between Dream and George, or not Dream and George, Dream and Quackity, is that Quackity gets attached to people, but that's not necessarily going to stop him from using them. Whereas Dream gets attached to people and then doesn't want to use them, and so he just breaks off the attachment altogether to try and avoid that becoming a possibility, I feel like. Because he does that with George, he does that with Puns, where he just...
Oh yeah,
instead of...
He's like, it's honestly like every time I see that quote, because I follow like a Dream character quote bot on Twitter, and like every time I see that quote where he's going like, oh, people are gonna go after me, I don't want you to be in danger because people are going after me for what I've done. You should just like pretend to betray me.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that just makes me sad.
Quackity gets attached, but he doesn't care about how that attachment... He doesn't care as much. I guess it's like it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't stop him. But with Dream, he gets attached, and his immediate thought is like, no, they're gonna get hurt because I'm attached now, and they're attached to me, and so everybody's gonna go after them to hurt me. So I need to stop.
We should probably cycle back to talking about the actual lore stream. Anyway, there was some pretty cool stuff. I especially liked how they sort of switched around the point of view. So we got like bits from Charlie's point of view, and we got bits from Fundy's point of view, and then we had a little bit of pre-recorded like old stuff from Wilbur's point of view. So it wasn't all just purely either like third person or from Quackity's point of view.
Yeah.
And I thought that was interesting.
I find it like Finding Joy was the one who I saw this from, but they mentioned how Quackity's view, we're getting less and less of it, even though it's his stream. We're losing his POV, essentially, as he's descended further into quote-unquote villainous role.
Quackity. See, okay, so I like all the characters on the Dream SMP. Like, I can I can feel sad or like sympathetic for all of them. But the only character, and I even feel sympathetic for Quackity, but Quackity's like the one character I just hate. Like, so I'm in this really weird mode where like he's talking to like Fundy and Charlie and even Purpled, especially the Purpled scene with him in the lore where he blows up the
Purple
UFO.
lore, finally.
Yeah, but so I'm watching these and I'm seeing the like terrible things he's doing because he blows up this teenager's house to eliminate any record of him having existed on the server. What the hell? What is wrong with him? Like, that is a terrible thing to do. But he's doing that, and then he's, like, threatening Foolish, basically, and saying that, like, I let you die. Or, Charlie, it's straight up manipulation. Same thing with Fundy. Like, I cannot. That Fundy stream got me so annoyed. But, like, I'm seeing him do all these terrible things, and I hate him for it. And he's always the character that annoys me the most. But at the same time, I feel sympathetic towards him, because you can tell that this is not someone who's doing these things from a mentally stable point. Because,
oh, definitely.
I kind of have, that's similar to my feelings towards Sam's character, I'd say.
Yeah, Sam has a similar thing where, like, you can tell that he's not doing well. The only problem is that I think he's going about it in a similar approach to Dream, where, like, we can theorize that Dream's character is not doing mentally well based off of the few scenes we see of him sort of having those, like the speech at the Disc War finale in the vault that he gives. Yeah. That is the way he delivers it. You can tell something's not right there. And with Quackity, you can tell the same thing with, like, when he's talking to Purple and Purple just walks away and he ends up yelling at him and basically yelling at nothing. Like, you can tell something bad's going there. Sam, and maybe he does this and I just haven't watched enough of his streams, but Sam is doing it where, like, the clearest examples are when he was in Quackity's lore stream and he was on that island after Tommy died.
Sam is interesting because everyone's talking about, like, Quackity losing his point of view, but Sam kind of already lost his. Yeah. Like, when he does stream, it's usually out of character, and I think it's been, like, a while, like, it's actually been, like, months now, because the last stream I can remember that he did, like, fully in Warden character was right when he got the new guards, and that was...
I think that's
it's a lot subtler.
Just after Quackity started torturing Dream, I think
so.
Or maybe it was right after Tommy got out. It was sometime around that time.
No, wasn't it?
It was right after Tommy got locked in with Dream.
Yeah, it was when the TNT blew up. He had a stream where he talked with BBH and hired them as guards and told them that he needs them so that he can stay in the prison and keep things locked down while he has someone to investigate.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's sort of lost his point of view already, which is really interesting, actually. Because you don't see people talking about it as much as they do with Quackity's point of view. We're only really seeing his character from other perspectives now.
The loss feels subtler because he's still streaming. It's not like Dream or Quackity who just completely stopped streaming. But we don't see him stream, as you said, in his, like, character's perspective. He's mostly out of character. He's just going around building things. And all the character lore we're getting is from other people's perspective.
He's doing stuff that's, like, technically canon, like working on the bank, but he's not doing it in character.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's been doing bank streams, hasn't he? Where he goes and fixes up or builds his bank. I think the last time I saw him in Warden perspective was when Michael was trying to break through the prison. In which case, Sam is terrifying, by the way. He's...
it's just, like, really fun. Just go on to it, Michael. It's just really fun to have a character who's just, like, unapologetically just, like, pro Dreams. C exclamation mark Dream. And it's just fun because when he finally ends up interacting with the characters where their streams are earlier in the day, you can just tell that there's going to be some really either, like, funny or dramatic moments because they just are going to completely disagree.
It's really ironic that he catches up on all the day streamer lore, but he has no idea for all the night streamer lore, which is the people he's interacting with.
Yeah, that does kind of.
I'd say probably like the first human he's probably going to interact with, just if we're going purely by chance, is probably Ranbu, because he streams a lot later, but is also involved in more of the earlier lore.
You'd think so, but I don't think they've interacted with each other at all. But I think that's because Rambu hasn't been on Dream SMP
lately.
that late. And Michael's like really late. Like he's like, at least for me, he's like 1 a.m.
Oh yeah, I watch him in the morning a ton. At least like the ones I've watched have all been like catching the second half.
Yeah.
Are more like seeing people talk about a stream in like Discord or something when I'm in class.
Oh god, it's... Dude, so like the moment Dream logs on and like his stream, I think it was yesterday or the day before, his immediate...
Yeah, I think it was yesterday.
Yeah, his immediate reaction is to just drop
Friday.
everything and rush to his rescue. And he actually tried to break into the prison, like, holy crap.
And he got some of the Blackstone, right?
Yeah, like that man is scared of no one. I cannot wait to see
Talking about
what
new
he
characters,
does.
I think Purple kind of almost counts because he hasn't really interacted with any of the roleplay aside from the Red Banquet. And I think I saw somebody mention that it seems like a good way to get him involved in the roleplay because he clearly wants to be, where he only has to do like small little bits that so he can sort of get used to it rather than having to do like a full lore stream.
Yeah.
So he can sort of like test the waters by doing the whole bits of acting for a few scenes. And that's sort of like a good way to get him involved, because I think the first attempt to get him involved in the lore was the whole thing where the Empire hired him to assassinate Puffy.
Oh yeah.
And then that kind of never ended up happening.
Yeah, because it's kind of, it's a weird plot, because it's kind of something he has to do on his own, but at the same time, when's a good time to do it? Because do you want to would it be something he wants to coordinate with Puffy, or would he just one day show up randomly on Puffy's stream trying to kill her? Like, would it mess with future plot, etc., etc.?
Yeah. I think that's part of the reason why, because we've had a couple people go and like mess with the prison lately. With like Michael did it, George did it, Jack Manifold did it, and the most we ever get out of it is that Sam logs on,
gets angry,
beats the shit out of them or yells at them and makes them leave.
I do think it kind of does emphasize the fact that he is willing to do anything to keep the prison secure. Like he like outright cut someone's arm off, the arm of somebody he cares about for like out-of-date key cards.
Yeah, it's like, but I think that's but that kind of thing though, where like other than what he did with Punk, where he cut off Punk's arm, which again, Sam, are you okay, bud? Go see a therapist. But but it like, so we have these moments where like characters go and mess with the prison, right? Like we had Tubbo build basically graffiti it. There's some other people who've graffitied it. And I think the reason that the most we ever see is Sam coming and yelling at them and making them go away, right? Or that one case with Drista and Tommy, but that didn't really count because that was not canon, obviously. But, so I think the reason why, like, Sam always threatens death, right? He's always telling people, like, if you mess with the prison, I'll kill you. But the reason he hasn't done it is because it could potentially mess with the lore going forward, you know? Yeah. So he'll chase everyone off and he'll tell people that I'll kill you over and over and over again, and then I'll kill your ghost over and over and over again. So he says all that stuff, but the reason that we never see him actually killing anyone is because it's gonna possibly mess with future lore, and they don't want to do that. So there is...
I think that's why the thing with the key cards was actually probably a good move, because it establishes that he is willing to go that far.
Yeah.
So when he does give those threats, even though he never follows through on them, you know that he would do it.
Yeah.
If given the chance.
Yeah.
Even though the actual narrative itself means that he can't.
Yeah, It's a little sad because it really moves away from the whole improv thing. Because if it was just pure improv, then anyone could go around and mess with the lore, and that'd be canon. Mess with the lore, mess with the prison, and that'd be like hard canon. But since everybody's got all these big plans and they're scared of messing those plans up, you've got people doing little things, but then those little things never really going anywhere. It's interesting because. On Michael's first day on the actual SMP, Philza shows him around a bit, and Michael looks towards the prison, and Philza just types in chat, "Not lore time," and I'm like, "But when is lore time then?" Because if it's improv, then lore time is every time technically.
I can see your point there. I do think there is benefit to like more planned lore because it gives opportunity to have like moments and to be able to bring people together.
Yeah.
I just find it like a little restrictive.
I think like a mix.
Yeah.
I think like a mix is best, where there's still opportunity to take something like the Sandberg and sort of put that into the lore and make that important, even if it just started off as a bit.
Yeah.
But there's also these more planned out plot lines that benefit from being more planned out, like the whole prison lore.
Yeah, like Dreams said that, it was a while ago now, but Dreams said that there's room for things to happen and to incorporate those things that happen and affect the future plot. It's just that everybody's so scared of affecting the future plot that they haven't done those things.
Yeah. Which I can completely understand, especially because as the server gets bigger, and the lore streams and how things work get bigger, because like I think that's part of the problem. Like I really enjoy like the structured like just pure lore streams, and I think it helps people who like want to analyze stuff out a lot instead of just doing, you know, slight like lore or semi lore, because those are really fun too, and it adds a lot to the characters as they just interact with each other casually.
Like I wasn't there for it, but I've gone back and I've watched some of the VODs from like Pogtopia era type stuff, and like you can really see it in how it will jump between like the really important plot moments and just general shenanigans.
Yeah.
And that's a bit less of a thing now.
Yeah.
Because even when a stream is like a mix of just casual stuff and lore, there'll generally be like a pretty clear, like I think Foolish's last lore stream, I think, was it? Yeah, I think it was that. Or maybe I'm thinking of something else. But somebody recently did a lore stream where like they did the lore bit, and then after they were like, okay, lore's over, let's just hang out now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was just like a clear-cut distinction between this is canon, this is not, but it's all fun.
Hey guys, it's that time again. Welcome back to the weekly Mellohi Spotlight. Each episode, we want to highlight a content creator from the Dream SMP community, whether that be an animator, a fan artist, a writer, or an analyst. We know that a big part of what makes this community so unique is how many talented individuals we have in it who really flesh out the world of the Dream SMP with their amazing work. This week, we're going to highlight two people, because I say so. I know we've been doing mostly some fan artists and animators so far, but as I say every time, I want to focus on the writers and the analysts too. So this week I have two wonderful Dream SMP analysts who just so happen to have kind of a theme going on with their name. It's a Kiwi and Call Me Apple on Twitter. Kiwi, let's talk about first, actually does a lot more than just analyzing. She makes fan art and playlists that are definitely worth checking out, as well as a ton of meta-analysis and headcanons about the Dream SMP. He mostly focuses on Tommy's character, Lamanberg, and Wilbur's character. But they also have some fun headcanons for Foolish, Puffy, the Egg, and a bunch of other characters as well. I personally really enjoyed reading their analysis of Tommy and his relationship with Wilbur and how it's changed over the SMP's history. They also just make funny tweets sometimes, so maybe drop a follow just for that. You can find her at It's a Kiwi, spelled ITSAKIIWI on Twitter. Now let's talk about Apple. Apple is a personal favorite of mine. I dropped them a follow a long time ago because they're kind of hilarious. Apple mostly talks about Techno, Wilbur, Filza, and Dream's character with a particular empathy towards Techno and Dream. They did a really interesting thread about the foundation of L'Manberg and the conflict with Dream over the Declaration of Independence and how that first war actually really worked out. And they also have some others about Wilbur's death and Filza's role in it, as well as just a lot of sympathy for Techno's character. They do a really great job of showing how a lot of the situations in the SMP are not as black and white as a lot of the fandom makes it out to be. And that even some of the most hated characters might have more going on than we really think. You can drop them a follow at call_me_apple_ on Twitter. And now, back to your regularly scheduled podcast. See you next time.
Let's talk theories, I suppose. So we obviously know that there's probably going to be something going on with the prison and with Technoblade.
Yes, hype!
I'm hyped
And
I'm
that
in
might be
dread.
connected to whatever, I think it was Sam, Quackity, and Technoblade went to talk about something after the banquet.
Oh yeah.
So it might be interconnected
yeah.
to whatever that was about.
There was
Yeah.
they went to talk about, didn't they go and talk about the egg and how they were going to lock up the egg?
Haha, remember when they did it last
Didn't they
time?
just like put that in glass in the museum?
Yeah,
or
it's not
something?
gonna work, but I mean,
It's like the worst defense possible.
everyone's already paranoid about it because I remember on, I think it was Rambo's stream, he was down in the spider farm and someone took a screenshot of him looking down the hallway towards the egg room, and there was a plant there that people thought wasn't there before, and they're like, is the egg growing again? Is the containment not working? Is it spreading across the server? Is it gonna come up into the spider spawner? And it was just like, okay guys, chill. And then Finding Joy or someone went back and was like, no, it was there last time. It's okay, guys. It hasn't happened yet, but like everyone's so paranoid for the egg because we all know it's gonna come back.
Because I think Bad Boy Hello mentioned that there's going to be like a big lore stream, and then the Sandberg is sort of set after that.
Yeah.
Yeah. The egg plot is definitely not done, and we know now that it's definitely tied into Quackity and Sam now. Because
for
I mean,
sure.
it's been tied into Sam for a while, but now it's even more so because he's the one containing it, and then Quackity is the one who.
And we all know what
swooped in to
happened
play
last time.
hero.
They tried to contain the
Yeah,
egg.
it's not gonna work, but they can believe it will. But and then Quackity swooped in to get rid of the egg, which I still have issues with, but that's a different matter. Yeah, so like we know the egg's coming back, and we know it's not done because Bad has said that like Lysandberg's after the egg is completed, which means that the egg is not finished. So there's that to look forward to, but then, and that probably is gonna get Techno content, but on the other hand, there's also the fact that whatever Quackity wants Techno to come to the prison for, or to whatever this letter from Dream is going to state.
Oh god, I'm so much fear. I am in so much fear right now.
It's actually like, and we talked about this a bit before we started recording, but the fact that some of the stuff that Dream mentions, like the fact that he is like very, very hesitant to write the letter, and the fact that he mentions seeing Technoblade shortly before, just before he went to prison, and I think there's only a few days between the time the syndicate was founded and when he went to prison.
You're right,
There's a good bit of evidence for him actually being the mysterious fifth member Harper Crashes. I'm probably saying that wrong.
Harpocrates?
And I'm just going to say it. I have no idea, honestly. I'm just going to say it how it looks.
I just came up with another theory, actually. Do you think when Dream mentioned seeing Technoblade shortly before he got locked up, maybe he was referring to Dream XD encountering Technoblade in the Syndicate room when they were messing with the
be
portal?
interesting because we don't really know how much they're connected. Like, we know there is a connection,
Yes.
and we know that XD said that he was part of Dream, and we know that Dream might have been able to talk through XD for a moment. Like, it's all really vague and mysterious.
Yeah, but it's just the timing though. He said shortly before he got locked in, and they found the Syndicate room 2 days before the 20th. so that it matches up.
But like I said, that also plays into maybe Technoblade asking Dream to join the Syndicate after they decided to make it.
Yeah.
Because obviously Syndicate is against tyrannical governments. Dream helped him take down a tyrannical government. Why wouldn't he want to join? And Dream himself seems to be fairly against like governments in general. Like even like when he created the whole Greater Dream SMP monarchy thing.
It was just a
was
figurehead.
very much like it was the figurehead for like the people.
Yeah.
And Eric got dethroned when they went against the people.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah.
Like there's someone represent the Greater Dream SMP. It's not really a government.
It gives the feel more like an elected official, or not even elected, but more like a community leader or something, like someone that everyone agrees like, yeah, this person's gonna be in charge, I guess.
Yeah.
Or this person's gonna be responsible for like honestly, like if I was comparing it to anything, I might compare it to the role of like the Irish president, which is very much like a figurehead thing, someone who is more involved with diplomatic meetings and events and stuff. But I think to me the throne, like the crown, the monarch of the Dream SMP seems to fit that role more than an actual monarch.
An actual
or
monarchy.
like the American, the American president. Well, I mean, like modern monarchs do tend to actually fit a similar role.
Yeah.
But I'm talking a bit more like monarchs
Medieval
in the
monarchies.
historical sense. Like they don't exactly have like a constitution or a parliament. It's not like a parliamentary monarchy, but it's not a pure monarchy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think the idea of like a figurehead similar to the Irish president or modern monarchs is a closer fit. Because like Eric doesn't really have power, but they have authority because they have the crown. And like it's actually mentioned, like they say with like the Red Banquet, like something like, I want everything to be peaceful, and I see that they see it as their responsibility as the monarch to try and make that peace happen.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, it's really, really interesting how there are actually quite a few similarities between Eric's character and Dream's.
A sense of responsibility.
Because both of them have this goal of wanting peace, of wanting the server to go back to how it was before L'Manberg, but also being willing to do things that hurt others, to betray their friends to achieve that goal.
Yeah. And there's also like this sense of responsibility they have for their positions.
I think the difference between Eret and Dream, though, is that like, does Eret do anything? Like, he's the king, right?
Well,
and like,
I mean,
I know
like,
part of the reason that Dream made him her the king is because they're neutral, right? Like, they're friends with the they were friends with the L'Manbergians. They're friends with the Dream team,
SMP.
sort of. But that part of the SMP, they're neutral with the Badlands at least. But like,
I think the problem is that they don't really have power.
that's true.
Like they had power when they had the Dream SMP behind them, when they had like Dream and Puns and Sapnap sort of working with them.
Yeah.
And that was what gave the crown power, not the fact that they had the crown, but the fact that they had the support of what was essentially like the military.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, like it's that's true of a lot of real life nations. Like you want to either control like the money and like the taxes and stuff, or you want to control the military. Otherwise,
you don't
control the resources, then you don't control the physical power. You don't really have anything.
Yeah.
Any kind of power. Like you don't have any way to influence stuff.
There's nothing beholding the citizens to what you say.
There's nothing to make people do what you say.
Yeah.
And there's nothing to make them want to do what you say.
Exactly. Like,
and historically speaking, like a lot of monarchs would have been people who owned land or had some control over trade, or who made deals with groups that had that. Like here's an example, like Renaissance era Italy, a lot of the groups like the Medicis would have been involved in like the banking and stuff of the time.
But like the Dream SMP doesn't have that, so power comes down to military might essentially. Like Dream's not wrong when he said
there is definitely a factor of like social or political power, especially like you look at characters like Wilbur, where their power comes from the fact that they can convince people to agree with them.
Yes.
And that's a less sort of concrete form of power, but it's a very powerful type of power, as you see with like Slash is a great example of that, because he didn't really have any power except for the power that people gave him by giving him the role of president.
Yeah.
And eventually people realized, hey, you don't actually have to do what this guy says. And then that's why everyone joined Pogtopia in the end.
Yeah, like Dream wasn't wrong when he said if respect is the only thing keeping you on the throne, then respect is nothing.
So it's sort of double-edged sword of it's a very, very useful thing to have, but you don't want it to be like your only weapon. Because if it's your only weapon, then it's very easy to lose. And you kind of see that with Wilbur and the whole Pogtopia arc, is that he relied on his words, and then he relied on his authority and his role as the president. And then when he lost that, he kind of lost it in general and started spiraling. And that's how you get the Manberg being blown up.
Back to Dream though, I really do like the Harpocrates theory, because it does kind of fill in some of the plot holes, like why Dream hasn't called on his favor aside from not being able to, and why Techno hasn't done anything about the prison at all. Like he knows it's there, he knows it exists. He calls it a middle school, although it brings up the question about how much he knows.
It does kind of fit with the theory that Dream planned to be in the prison, because if he was talking with Technoblade shortly before the disc confrontation, then he would have probably told Technoblade as allies that he was planning on that and not to try and break him out. Which also, I'm definitely leaning... Originally I was hesitant about the theory that he planned to be in the prison, but I've slowly grown to agree with it more, because the factors like we know Enderwalking Ranbu is probably working with Dream, willingly, because all the evidence so far to me is pointing towards that. Like Enderwalking Ranbu just being Ranbu with all his memories.
Ranbu himself has said it.
And a bunch of other things, like Ranbu saying that his character has flexible morality and wouldn't care about what Dream was doing if Dream wasn't doing stuff to hurt his friends. So if Dream is one of his friends, he's shown that if he's friends with multiple people who have mutually hurt each other, like with Tubbo and Technoblade, he'll basically try and play every side. So it could be a similar situation with Dream, if he's friends with Dream and just doesn't remember it. But the fact that he and Dream talked in the prison and Dream didn't tell him to break him out, and Ranbu doesn't seem to have made any real move aside from probably being the one to set off the TNT that got Tommy stuck in there, indicates to me that it's more likely he planned for that, and that's why Ranbu hasn't done anything, that's why Techno hasn't done anything about the prison.
Right.
But something went wrong and the prison wasn't how he planned it to be. And obviously Quackity comes in and that's not something he could have predicted.
There was a court...
And I think that theory has just grown on me because there's more evidence for it than there was when he originally went to prison.
For sure. I think it's entirely possible that he planned on eventually ending up in a prison. Eventually. But that maybe not, he wasn't expecting it to happen during the finale.
I always thought of it as not as that was the definitive plan, but it was sort of like he had a plan A and a plan B sort of, where it was if I win, then I can put Tommy in prison and Tubbo will be dead, or I can control them and everything will be fine because I'll have the server under control.
Or I can kill Tubbo to get Tommy to shut up, and then I can bring him back and everyone else will be happy because he's not dead.
That's what I'm thinking.
Or I don't know, something like that.
I think it was generally his plan was that if something, if he won in this circumstance, let's say, like, he's free, they're dead or under control, basically, then it's not a problem, because, then that's a good ending. But in the case where, that doesn't happen, then I think his plan was just that it was going to be a win-win for him either way, just one was more of a win versus another. So if he got Tommy under control and killed off Tubbo, then he could be in control of the server again, and he could unite everyone again, because L'Manberg would be gone.
And if he lost, then it would be because everyone else united against him.
Exactly.
So the server is united either way.
Yeah.
That's always been the vibe I've gotten ever since, like, the finale happened and people started saying, like, well, what if he intended to go to the prison?
I think, like, isn't there, like, the whole thing that he foreshadowed, like, in a talk with Puns, like, oh, it was, like, the two of us versus everyone else on the server. We definitely lose, no matter how good we are, so it's better for you to pretend to not be on my side, because
I don't want you to
then
fall
you won't
down
be in
with
that
me.
situation.
Yeah, it's just, oh god, he implied that there was only ever going to be one prisoner. Well, he said that they could lock up everyone else, but, like, Sam implied there was only ever going to be one prisoner. Dream implied that he was planning making the prison for someone in particular that he doesn't want to kill.
But he also said that it wasn't for Tommy.
Yeah, and that is...
And it probably... Like, I'm pretty sure, like, it wouldn't have been for Technoblade, because his entire thing from, like, the start of when Technoblade joined the server was, like, get Technoblade on my side, and just, like, giving him stuff and doing good stuff for him. Like, actually, somebody pointed this out, like, some people say, like, oh, Dream only helped Techno for the favor, but Technoblade was the one who said, okay, you helped me, you saved me, I owe you a favor now. He just did it to strengthen his allegiance, alliance with Technoblade, to emphasize, I'm on your side, we are both against New L'Manberg. He didn't expect to get the favor out of it.
Technoblade says that every time he's worked with Dream, every time they've interacted, Dream's just been really, really nice to him, really kind.
So the prison being for Technoblade doesn't really make sense within that context, because all his movements towards Technoblade have been towards getting him on his side rather than trying to, like, contain him or get rid of him.
Yeah. There's a lot of... Because there's such a vagueness to, like, what Dream said about when he last saw Techno.
Oh, God. Yeah.
There was a good bit between Doomsday and the disconfrontation.
There was so much time, and it's like so is he talking about, like, it's been a bit, so he was talking about when they last saw each other after Doomsday, or did they have a conversation at some point after that? And if they did,
I mean, this wouldn't be
when did it happen?
Off-screen conversations have played an important role in the plot, because the conversation between Dream and Wilbur, when they made the decision that when Wilbur said that no matter what happened, he was going to blow up L'Manberg.
Right.
That was off screen.
Yeah.
We had no idea that was a thing until Dream called the truce and Wilbur, like, started talking about it, because that was never on screen, but it played a really important role in the plot. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was an off-screen discussion between Dream and Techno.
It could also be that his sense of time in general, or his memory, is just deteriorated so badly that he genuinely can't tell how long it's been since he last talked to Techno.
He thinks that could be something else. And that could be, like, another explanation. But I don't know. I just want Dream to be part of the syndicate, because that would be fun. Because, like, you got the opportunity. There's just so much cool dynamic opportunity. Like, you've got Dream and Ronbu, and, like, you either have regular Ronbu who just hates Dream, or you've got Ronbu with all his memories who seems to be on good terms with him. So either way, that's interesting to see. Then you've got, like, Nikki, and they can both bond over, I want to kill Tommy. But Nikki has, like, started healing for that, so she can also be, like, a factor in Dream healing, basically, because she can say, I relate, but how about we don't kill someone?
For sure. It's just... we really don't know, like, because when Crackety was asking about Technoblade, the way he responded, it sounded like he was unsure about who Technoblade was for a moment. Like, he couldn't quite remember.
Yeah. Like, I'm assuming, like, because he did some really good, they did, like, obviously did their research for the Exile arc, so I'm assuming that Writer Dream also did his research for the Torture arc, and definitely, like, one of like the things that can result from torture is actually memory loss. Usually of like the time spent being tortured, but also of things before. I mean, like, we might get someone else. Yeah, just shove another character into the Amnesia gang. You already have a lot of characters there. Can't hurt to add another one.
Something about Rambu's recent lore. So he's found another stronghold. Woo, completely by accident, and he's decided to incorporate it into his sort of improv lore. And we learn a bit more about his experiments and what he's been doing. And he says he's basically learned a lot about his Enderwalk from those experiments, and that he feels moving to the stronghold, not that he knows what it is, would be more beneficial because it might explain something that he hasn't been able to access with his normal experiments. And he talks about how he has a way of getting those memories back, and how Enderwalking might just be him with all those memories. And he talks about other side of the story, and he talks about how because it's him with most of his memories that maybe he hasn't done anything bad. He still says that the reason he hasn't done anything bad lately is because Dream's in jail, but the fact that he said that his Enderwalking side is okay, it gives the implication that he had good reasons to side with Dream in the first place, right?
And honestly, like, I'm kind of feeling, because recently Rambu said that the Lemon Demon song Redesign Your Logo is one that he associates with his lore and even listens to when doing writing. And just like listening to that song, I kind of get the vibe that Ranbu might end up being a more villainous character than we might have initially expected. Because that song, when associated, like, compared to what we know about what Ranbu with all his memory wants, which is no conflict, kind of gives the implication that he wants no conflict no matter what. And you can kind of contrast, like, Dream, his problem is less with the conflict, more wanting the start of the server back again, and there was still conflict there. It just wasn't as sides, but it seems that Ranbu, with all his memories, wants no conflict and might be willing to go very, very far to achieve that, which means he might be an interesting character when working with Dream as someone who might actually be more extreme. And honestly, I just like the idea of villainous Ranbu because it goes against so much of what we've come to expect of his character and how the fandom as a whole sees him, that it's just really fun to think about how people would react to a plot twist like that, where it turns out that maybe Ranbu was the one to approach Dream about working with him and saying something like, I know that you got Tommy exiled because you didn't like him starting conflict. Well, let me tell you that he's been, like, storing up weapons and hiding them under his house, or something like that. Like, I like the idea of Ranbu being the one to come to Dream and saying, I want to help you. I see what you're doing and I agree with it. And I think that just makes his character so much more interesting and complicated, and defies expectations while also being completely in line with what we already know about his character.
I just love Enderwalker Ranbu because we don't know much about him as far as, like, what Ranbu with all of his memories is like, because we don't know a lot of what those memories are.
We
right?
also don't know. So it can be hard to tell when we're seeing Enderwalking Ranbu and when we're seeing the Ranbu that we know, because we saw him when he made the Shulker deal, but we didn't realize it at the time. There were, like, a few theories, but most people thought it was just Ranbu being Ranbu.
Right, and so
there could be other cases.
Yeah, and the thing is, though, is that even with, like, the Shulker thing, it's like, how much of that is necessarily Enderwalker Ranbu versus... Because Enderwalker Ranbu and Ranbu are Rambo. Like, they're the same person. It's not like a split personality type thing. And so at any given time, it could be that it's like, it's hard to, because there's clearly a way for him to trigger it so that he remembers more. But does that mean that, like, at any given point in any given stream, we can have a Rambo who remembers more at that point, but maybe not everything? And so, like, there's shades of that kind of, like, of how strong his personality is based off of, well, like, this day,
There was
I
one stream
remember...
a while back where it actually started with Romby just, like, silently walking into his house and looking at the note that Dream left him when he took back the, I think it was Cash, was the disc?
Yeah.
And then he just started stream like normal and didn't mention it at all.
Yeah, he acts like he woke up.
And I think that was the first time we had like a confirmed point of view from Ender walking Rambo. And I think people have kind of forgotten that in favour of the Shulker deal, but that was like a big deal at the time.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we're kind of running out of time.
Thank you for listening in.
This was fun. Hopefully we get more lore in like the next week or so. Especially Dream lore, because he told us it was coming in a week and it's
Dream
past that point,
Give
man.
us the lore.
Give us the
lore. Lore.
I'm desperate.
Lore.
We are desperate. We are starving. Give us the lore, Crumbs Dream. Give us the lore.
Well, thanks for listening to the 4th episode of Mellohi, and we hope you enjoyed it. You can also find us on Twitter at Mellohi Podcast, where you can ask us questions, suggest future topics, or just get updates about new episodes. See you next time!